Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be doing an 18 PPR mock draft from the 8th overall spot on Sleeper. Inside today's video, we're going to be going over my thought process as I make each and every single pick inside of this draft, as well as discussing how the draft is going as a whole, touching on the other picks that are going on around me, as well as talking about the difference between an 8-team draft to a 10-team, 12-team, 14-team draft, and how the league size affects my draft strategy for an 8-team fantasy football draft. But before we get on into the mock draft, I would like to ask if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, to please make sure that you hit that subscribe button down below. Not only is it free, I put out this content every single day to help you guys win your 2021 fantasy football championship. And while you're down there, whether you're new to the channel or not, please make sure that you hit that like button down below to help boost this video up the algorithm so that more beautiful people like yourself can see today's video. I would also like to let you guys know that my rankings are available for free, full PPR, half PPR, and standard on Osmo.com. The link to my rankings will be down below in the description, as well as in the pinned comment. Also linked down there in the pinned comment and the link in the description is the articles that I write every single day on Osmo.com. If you guys need help picking out your team name, I wrote an article yesterday talking about my favorite team names for fantasy football in 2021. So without further ado, let's get into it. Again, this is an 8-team PPR mock draft from the 8th overall spot. Our roster settings are 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, 2 flexes, a kicker, defense, and 6 bench spots. Now, I believe if you are in an 8-team league and you are the commissioner or you know the commissioner, please try to convince them to up the roster size, whether that is adding an extra wide receiver or an extra flex, because in an 8-team league, basically every single team is going to be stacked. Every team is going to have a great quarterback, great running backs, great wide receivers, solid tight ends, a good defense, a good kicker. But if you add that extra depth to the roster, it makes you kind of have much more inner thoughts with yourself when you're trying to set your lineup. It's not really just cut and dry every single week, and I think that makes your league more interesting. It doesn't really change my draft strategy here, though. If you play in a 1-flex league, then this video will still be able to help you. So without further ado, let's get into the mock draft. So drafting from the number 8 overall spot here, my hope is that Travis Kelce does end up falling our way. Will he? I'm not too sure, and he does. So the first pick of the draft was Dalvin Cook, followed by Christian McCaffrey, Ezekiel Elliott, Alvin Kamara, Nick Chubb, Derrick Henry, and Saquon Barkley. If you take anyone over Christian McCaffrey at the number 1 overall spot, you're basically cruising for a bruising, as the boomers would say. You're basically looking to just lose your league completely. Christian McCaffrey is the only running back in fantasy football that I could easily see surpassing 30-plus PPR points per game. I like Dalvin Cook as the number 2 overall running back, but the safety as well as the ceiling that Christian McCaffrey provides week in and week out is unmatched, so he should be the number 1 overall pick in every single league. Now, in an 8-team draft, it is actually entirely possible that the whole first round is comprised of the running back position. In a 10, 12-team league, typically there's at least 2 non-running backs going inside the first round, but since it is a much smaller league, in an 8-team league, it is entirely possible that the whole first round is filled with running backs. But where we're sitting here, I want to go ahead and get Travis Kelce. Now, the reason why I attack tight ends so aggressively in an 8-team league, it goes into the draft strategy that I was kind of talking about at the beginning of the video that I wanted to touch upon. In an 8-team league, like I said, every single team is fucking stacked. Every single team, they're going to have these great running backs. They're going to have these great wide receivers. They're going to have a great quarterback. But not every team is going to have that top 3 tight end. Not every team is going to have the number 1 overall tight end in fantasy football. While I do believe that Travis Kelce could get dethroned this year and Darren Waller ends up taking that spot, I can't really risk missing out on Travis Kelce at this spot, because by the time it swings back around at the 308, there's a very solid chance that Darren Waller is gone, because Darren Waller his ADP has been climbing as of recently, so it is entirely possible that he gets picked at the end of the 2nd round or in the early 3rd round. So I'm not going to chance it, and we're going to take Travis Kelce here at the 108. I want to get that tight end positional advantage, because now maybe I won't have 2 great running backs or one of those top 3 wide receivers and a elite running back. I am going to have that very strong positional advantage at the tight end position, and in an 8-team league, I believe I can make up kind of that disparity with depth at the running back back and the wide receiver position while having a dominant tight end. Basically, every single week, my tight end is going to beat down on the other team's tight end. So here, we are going to be looking either running back or wide receiver. At running back, we have Jonathan Taylor, Aaron Jones, Austin Eckler, Najee Harris, Joe Mixon, Antonio Gibson. At wide receiver, we have the pick of the litter. Now, if I was going into this draft and say Saquon Barkley was still available and the computer ended up taking Aaron Jones, then I'm 100% drafting a wide receiver at this spot. I like Austin Eckler a lot, but I would much rather have Davante Adams at this spot in an 8-team league because I'm perfectly fine with waiting on a running back inside of the 3rd round, but Aaron Jones is ranked inside of my top 5 at the running back position. I know a lot of people will think I'm crazy for saying that, but Aaron Jones has been on a tear, not 1, but 2 years in a row in Green Bay. Aaron Rodgers is there. Davante Adams is there. This offense is going to be scoring a shit ton of points game in and game out, so I believe that Aaron Jones is going to have that potential to be a top 5 running back yet again for fantasy football in 2021. So to me, inside the 2nd round, it is a no-brainer pick. The 2nd round is typically when the wide receivers start to fly off the board inside of an 8-team league, and then the 3rd round, it kind of continues on that way. So we went with Aaron Jones. After that was Jonathan Taylor, Davante Adams, DeAndre Hopkins, Tyreek Hill, Austin Eckler, Stephon Diggs, Antonio Gibson. The 3rd round begins with Patrick Mahomes, Najee Harris, A.J. Brown, Joe Mixon, George Kittle, DK Metcalf, Justin Jefferson, and now we are back up on the board. So realistically, right now, we could have went with, instead of Travis Kelce, we could have gotten Tyreek Hill and Aaron Jones. We could have gotten Aaron Jones and Austin Eckler. We could have went Aaron Jones and Davante Adams. Not something I'm necessarily looking to do early on in the draft by stacking 2 players on the same team, but you can do it. And Darren Waller would have been available here at the 308. Is that 100% exactly what would have happened? Maybe. In a lot of leagues, you are going to be seeing George Kittle go behind Darren Waller. I believe Darren Waller is the clear number 2 tight end in fantasy football for 2021 based upon the amount of volume I believe he's going to see in the Las Vegas Raiders offense. So maybe it was a swing and a miss taking Kelce this early, but how would we have known that Darren Waller would make it this far? Because a majority of the time, he would not be. In the 3rd round, please do not take a quarterback this early. You want to build up your running back and your wide receiver depth early on. These are the stars to your team, the glue to your team, and it's very likely that in the 5th round, the 6th round, that one of those other top 5 quarterbacks is available and your team will look a lot better if you end up waiting on the quarterback position. So looking at the running backs, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Josh Jacobs, Deandre Swift, Chris Carson, David Montgomery, some solid running backs still available at this point. But at wide receiver, there is a glaring pick right here. Now, I know a lot of people say, Nick, this is unrealistic because Calvin Ridley will never fall to this spot. And while I agree in some cases, in a lot of drafts, people really do start taking Justin Jefferson and DK Metcalf ahead of Calvin Ridley. Why? I frankly have no idea, because Calvin Ridley, in my opinion, could easily be the number 1 wide receiver in fantasy football this year from the sheer amount of volume that he's going to be receiving in the Atlanta Falcons offense. So I would say that he is certainly worth a pick here in the 3rd round. I would have taken him ahead of every wide receiver. I wouldn't have taken him ahead of Adams, Hill, or Diggs, but after that, he would be easily a pick inside the 3rd round. I'm surprised he fell this way. Had he not have been available, I would have went with Keenan Allen at this pick. So we do already have a running back, we have a wide receiver, and we have a tight end. I believe people call this the rainbow strategy, where the first 4 picks of the draft, you go with a different position, and we would have had to cap it off with a guy like Josh Allen here, but that's not what we're going to be looking to do here. We're either going running back or wide receiver. I like Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but I'm fine waiting at this point to get another running back inside the 5th round. So we're going to double up on wide receivers here and go with Keenan Allen, wide receiver of the LA Chargers. I just believe that Justin Herbert, the pervert, is going to continue to play amazing in LA. Keenan Allen is the clear number 1 target in this offense. He is going to be peppered with targets just like he has been in the past. He was last year with Justin Herbert under center. So it seems like a no-brainer to take Keenan Allen at the 401. After that, we see Josh Allen, followed by Terry McLaurin, Josh Jacobs, which is a terrible pick inside the 4th round. Please do not draft Josh Jacobs in the 4th round. He does not have any receiving upside. They bring in Kenyon Drake. The offensive line is worse. It is a kind of chemistry project, a mix-up of a complete and utter disaster for Josh Jacobs in fantasy football. After that, we see Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Allen Robinson, Chris Carson, Darren Waller at the 408 is a complete and utter steal, followed by Mike Evans, David Montgomery, Kyler Murray, Julio Jones, Chris Godwin, Miles Sanders, Amari Cooper, and we're back up on the board here at the 508. Looking at running backs, DeAndre Swift, Darrell Henderson, Kareem Hunt, James Robinson, Myles Gaskin. I like James Robinson here at this point inside the fourth round, or inside the fifth round, I should say. Technically, it may be a bit of a reach based upon the sleeper ADP, but I wouldn't be surprised if James Robinson is going up here by Clyde Edwards-Helaire by the end of this week when a lot of people are doing their fantasy drafts, because James Robinson is such a popular name. Now, he was a nobody before last season, a certified nobody. No one knew who the fuck he was. Everyone thought that he was going to not have that job, and then out of nowhere, this man was bending defenses over across the table and not even using lube before he inserted his cock inside of that defense, and it was amazing to watch. But this season, I think a lot of people are going to be super high on him again. I don't believe that he will finish as a top 12 running back, but it is entirely in the cards for James Robinson, so I'm going to go with him here over Deandre Swift, which I know some people will say that's a little bit crazy, but Deandre Swift is dealing with a groin injury. He is on a team that is going to be very, 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 very bad. They're not going to be able to run the ball a lot late in the game. They're talking about using Jamal Williams and Deandre Swift as a 1-2 punch in the offense. Swift is probably, at this point, it seems like, going to miss week number 1, so if Jamal Williams gets off to a hot start, I understand Deandre Swift is way better than Jamal Williams. But if Dan Campbell wants to run the hot hand approach, then Jamal Williams will have the hot hand because he blew up week 1 and played well. So if that is the case, then maybe Deandre Swift gets fucked a little bit here. I'm fine drafting him inside the 6th round, certainly, but I think we're going to end up going wide receiver at this spot. Looking at the board, CeeDee Lamb, Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, Adam Thielen, DJ Moore, Tyler Lockett. Now, with the Irv Smith injury of him being out for the whole season that we heard yesterday, that is a huge boost to Justin Jefferson as well as to Adam Thielen, because I thought Irv Smith was really going to suck up a lot of those red zone targets, which could potentially be going to Adam Thielen or to Justin Jefferson this season. So good news for them, bad news for me as the number 1 Irv Smith truther in the world. I was banging the drum for Irv Smith all offseason, and sadly, he did end up getting hurt. But here, we have CeeDee Lamb still on the board, which is definitely crazy. So crazy that it's probably impossible. So while I thought Calvin Ridley was possible at the end of the 3rd round, I don't think CeeDee Lamb is possible at all inside the 6th round. So we won't go with him. We'll instead go with Robert Woods of the LA Rams. Obviously, if this is a real draft and CeeDee Lamb is there, I'm taking him 100% of the time, but I'm trying to keep these mocks as accurate as possible so that you guys can understand what I would do in a real draft, because in reality, CeeDee Lamb definitely would not be there at the 601. I like Robert Woods a lot. I think Matthew Stafford is really going to keep this offense at a high pace. I think Robert Woods is the clear number 1 wide receiver there, and I'm very excited to get him on my team inside the 6th round. But before we get on in to the breakdown of my 7th round pick, I would like to ask, if you guys are new to the YouTube channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, please make sure that you hit that subscribe button down below, as well as hitting the like button to help boost this video up the algorithm so that more beautiful people like yourself can see today's video. Also, follow me on Twitter at NotoriousFNTSY. So back into it. After we took Mr. Bobby Trees, came Deandre Swift, Lamar Jackson, CeeDee Lamb, Kyle Pitts, Darrell Henderson, Cooper Kupp, DJ Moore, Adam Thielen, Russell Wilson, Kareem Hunt, Jamar Chase, Myles Gaskin, Mark Andrews, and Tyler Lockett. So after the big 5 quarterbacks come off the board, that's Patrick Mahomes, that's Kyler Murray, that's Lamar Jackson, that's Josh Allen, and that is Dak Prescott, who is yet to come off the board, maybe because of his injury. Some people are a little bit worried. I'm not all that worried, but I would understand why you may be potentially worried, but I'm definitely taking Dak over Russell Wilson, and I think that a majority of people will, but I've done a lot of these mock drafts, and Russell Wilson does go ahead of Dak Prescott a lot of the time, which in reality, I don't really understand at all, because Dak is going to be on one of the most pass-heavy offenses in the NFL, and I think Russell Wilson and them are going to try to run the ball a little bit more this season. So looking at running backs on our team, we already have Aaron Jones, we already have James Robinson, and we have Calvin Ridley, Keenan Allen, and Robert Woods at the wide receiver position, and obviously our tight end with that first pick, we went ahead and got Travis Kelce. So here, we could lean either running back or wide receivers. Looking at the wide receivers, Deontay Johnson, Kenny Golladay, Brandon Ayuk, Michael Thomas. Looking at running back, Mike Davis, Gus Edwards, Chase Edmonds. After this range, things start to get bad. Bad news bears at running back, to where I'm not ultra confident in any of the running backs. So here, we are going to lean with Mike Davis. I believe I have him ranked ahead of Gus Edwards at this point. I really like the situation Gus Edwards is in Baltimore. That is going to be a team that may run the ball the most amount of time in the National Football League, but it's not going to be a full-on workhorse role there. There are going to be other running backs involved behind Gus Edwards but we kind of thought the same thing with J.K. Dobbins. I believed Gus Edwards would be involved, so in the 7th, the 8th round, it definitely makes sense to want to go ahead and snag Gus Edwards. But just like with James Robinson, I think a lot of people are going to get really high up on Gus Edwards and maybe draft him in like the 3rd round. And that, in my opinion, would be a huge swing and a miss. So we're back up on the board here inside of the 8th round. And we could go wide receiver, we could go running back, or we could go ahead and go quarterback. Because with Dak Prescott still available, I'm not someone who normally comes on here and tells you guys to draft a quarterback super early in the draft. But when the value falls to you of Dak Prescott, I understand the injury worry, but this defense in Dallas sucks complete and utter donkey cock. And if the defense is playing bad, Dak Prescott's going to have to throw them back into these games just like he did last season, and I believe that is entirely what is going to happen because the defense didn't really get that much better in the offseason, and I do believe that Dak is going to look mighty fine in fantasy football this year. After Dak came Michael Thomas, Brandon Ayuk, Justin Herbert the pervert, Mr. Discount Double Check, A.A. Ron Rodgers, Odell Beckham Jr., Kenny G, Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, Devonta Smith, TJ Hawkinson, Javonte Williams, Juju Smith-Schuster, Gus Edwards, Chase Edmonds, and now we are back up on the clock here. So our whole starting roster is filled out besides our kicker and our defense. So we're looking to add that bench depth here, not a kicker or a defense. Very interesting to see Michael Thomas go off the board in the 8th round. In a 12-team league, I would kind of understand it, right? Because you can put him on the IR. He's a nice kind of sneaky pick because while he'll be irrelevant for the first 6, 7, 8 weeks of the season, eventually you pull him out of the IR and he could be a sneaky wide receiver 1 week in and week out with Jameis Winston under center. But there's also the chance that since he's Michael Thomas, he just holds out the whole year, just fakes an injury or something, and you just don't see him all year. It's a risky play because of who Michael Thomas is, but I honestly do think he's going to play at least 8 games on the season, probably maybe 7 games, but around that range. So we're back up on the board here. Running backs are looking grim, which is exactly why we drafted Mike Davis at the 708. So here we are going to lean wide receiver, and to me, it is a no-brainer here with Mr. T. Higgins still on the board. I like Higgins so much because I am really worried about Jamar Chase. Now, I think Jamar Chase will eventually, a couple weeks in the season, catch on and be great, but right now, I'm pretty worried for early on in the season that he's not going to be getting that separation. He's not going to be open, so Joe Burrow's not throwing him the ball as much, and T. Higgins being the wide receiver 1 on the Cincinnati Bengals, who I believe to be a very pass-heavy team, because just like with Dak Prescott, the defense sucks ass, and they have this loaded offense. I think T. Higgins is going to play very, very big this season, so we do already have 3 running backs at this point in the draft, and like I said, the running backs are looking grim. I do like Trey Sermon. I like Damian Harris a lot here. The fact that he's still on the board is going to make me technically reach and take him. He could easily be drafted ahead of Kareem Hunt, in my opinion. I think that not everyone has caught onto the Damian Harris hype train just yet, but with Mac Jones under center, the upside of Damian Harris has increased by a lot because Cam Newton, when he was the starting quarterback, he was just bound to take like 25% of the rushes on the team. I believe last year he was at 22%. Don't quote me exactly, but it was at least 20+% of the team's rushes went to Cam Newton. Cam Newton was vulturing a lot of touchdowns this year. Now Cam Newton is gone. They waived his ass, and Cam Newton, I don't think he waived back either. That's kind of a messed up joke. I hope that Cam Newton finds a way on a new team, but with him gone, that really opens the door up for Mr. Damian Harris to be pounding in those touchdowns. And maybe we see Damian Harris get more dump-offs this season, which is something that we have not seen throughout his NFL career. After Damian Harris came DJ Chark, Jerry Jeudy, Raheem Mostert, Melvin Gordon, Robbie Anderson, Noah Fant, Leonard Fournette, followed by Deebo Samuel, Cortland Sutton, Laviska Shenault, Antonio Brown, Trey Sermon, Ronald Jones, and Rob Gronkowski. In a lot of leagues with more casual players, people are going to hammer in on Gronk in the middle round because, hey, he's Rob Gronkowski, yo soy fiesta, he's a fun guy, he's been really good in fantasy in the past, but in Tampa Bay, he wasn't really all that good during the regular season. I think he's a fine late round draft pick, but in the 11th round with the other tight ends that are still available, I really do believe that that is a reach. So looking at our roster right now, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 running backs, and we have 4 wide receivers. Typically, by the end of the draft, I want to tell you guys to have more running backs than wide receivers because it's very easy to just go on the waiver wire, pretend this is my phone, it's really my Roku TV remote. So you go on your phone and you're scrolling through and you're like, man, that's a in an 8-team league, there's going to be wide receivers that are the wide receiver number 2 on their team available. on the waiver wire. Guys you can start every single week, but at running back, even in an 8-team league, things are looking grim. So it's very easy to just pick up a wide receiver, and it's hard to pick up a running back that you want to start every single week, which is why I like to load up on the running back position. But in an 8-team league, while it is still hard to find a running back, it's definitely more plausible than in like a 12 or a 14-team league. So here, looking at wide receiver, Jalen Waddle, Jarvis Landry, Brandon Cooks, Tyler Boyd, Corey Davis. Looking at running backs, we got Michael Carter, James Conner, Kenyon Drake, Zach Moss. Now, I do like Michael Carter a decent amount, but when I take him, I need to tell you, I don't even think I'm going to take him here. I just need to inform you guys that I thought that this was going to be a relatively quick takeover of the New York Football Jets backfield, but it appears that it's going to take maybe slightly more time than I originally projected for Michael Carter, so that does definitely suck in my opinion, because I think if he is able to become the #1 running back on the team, then he could be very dangerous for fantasy football with the receiving upside he has in New York with the Jets. Speaking of the Jets, we went ahead and snagged Corey Davis here inside of the 11th round. Corey Davis is one of the wide receivers that I am getting very excited to draft in the late rounds of my drafts, because I believe he is the clear #1 target there in New York for the Jets with Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson was basically closing his eyes, and he knew exactly where Corey Davis was. He was just locked in, laser light, aim hacks through the wall when you're playing Warzone type of lock on to throw in the ball to Mr. Corey Davis. And if that's the case during the season, which it probably will be, that is going to be very, very nice inside of the 11th round as a draft pick steal. So here, normally we would go with Michael Carter, but again, I'm starting to worry a little bit. I think James Robinson could actually become the starter of the Arizona Cardinals way before Michael Carter can become the starter of the New York Football Jets at this point. Normally, I would take Michael Carter at this pick, but I do advise that if you guys are doing multiple drafts in fantasy football, when you're doing mock drafts, to try out different strategies every single time. Normally, there's no way I'm drafting a quarterback inside the 8th round, but in this mock draft with the value that fell to us, I felt very comfortable taking Dak Prescott at that spot. So we're back up on the board. After we went with Connor came Jalen Waddle, Kenyon Drake, Michael Carter, Jarvis Landry, the Buccaneers defense, Brandon Cooks, the Rams defense, Zach Moss, Baltimore Ravens, Tyler, Boyd, Tampa Bay, Tom Brady, Matthew Stafford, Dallas Goedert, and Robert Tonyan. When we already have an elite quarterback in Dak Prescott, when we already have a tight end in Travis Kelce, who's going to be the #1 tight end, you don't need a backup tight end, you don't need a backup quarterback in this case, so we're just going to fill out our roster at the bottom here with running backs. I don't think I made the draft long enough to get a kicker and a defense. I could potentially add another round here. 1 second. Actually, I can't add another round. It's due to no glitch of my own, just the fact that Sleeper didn't add the 16th round here. It is what it is. I'll talk about my defense and kicker strategy, but we are going to get our extra running back and wide receiver at this spot. So looking at wide receivers here at this point, Will Fuller was a wide receiver I talked about in my must-draft wide receiver video from yesterday, or my must-draft sleeper wide receiver video from yesterday. The reason why I like Will Fuller is because I believe he could be the #1 target in Miami. He is suspended for the first game, but we already have so many wide receivers on the team that it was likely that he wasn't even going to crack the lineup in week 1 anyways. Want to see how him and Tua look as a connection, and if Tua's hitting this guy deep down the field like I believe he can with a much more higher tempo offense in Miami, I think Will Fuller is certainly worth a pick here inside of the 13th round. And then we're going to go ahead and look running back. While I normally wouldn't go with A.J. Dillon because I like Aaron Jones so much and we already have him on our team, I will handcuff Aaron Jones with A.J. Dillon, because if Aaron Jones was to go down, then I actually believe A.J. Dillon is one of those really worthy handcuffs who could actually finish like as a top 12 running back in those weeks if Aaron Jones was to be gone. So here, we're going to go ahead and get our defense. The strategy for drafting a defense in fantasy football is to find a defense playing up against a not-so-hot opponent week #1. The Denver Broncos schedule for opening the season is very, very good. It is the Broncos. They have the Giants, then they have the Jags, and then they have the Jets. That is 3 smash matchups in a row for the Denver Broncos, and I like that a lot. The Carolina Panthers get the Jets week 1. That is also a defense I am looking to get, and magically, Sleeper has given us our 16th round, so we are going to be able to get a kicker in this video. So we're going to go with my boy Tyler Bass Pro Shop. Actually, we're going to go with Rodrigo. You sunk my Blankenship. So we did see my boy, my old bitch lame, but my young Hoku go at that turn. Very, very nice for him. So our team that we got in this draft is absolutely sexual. It is beautiful. So we're going to scroll ourselves over here to the left side of the screen. I'll make myself a little bit bigger as well so that you guys can see the picks a little bit better, and you can see me better, obviously, because that's the main goal of this video. It's to see me. So looking at the draft board here on our roster, we have Dak Prescott as our starting quarterback. Our 2 running backs are Aaron Jones and James Robinson. Wide receivers are Calvin Ridley and Keenan Allen. Tight end Travis Kelce. Our flexes are Robert Woods and Mike Davis. Our kicker is Rodrigo Blankenship, and our defense is the Denver Broncos. Our bench is comprised of T. Higgins, Damian Harris, Corey Davis, James Conner, Will Fuller, and A.J. Dillon. This is a league-winning team. But guess what? The thing about 8-team leagues is pretty much every team is going to look very good. But I think with the strategy that we utilized of going tight end early, finding that value of Dak in the middle rounds of the draft, this is going to be a team that is set up for success. So thank you guys all so much for watching this video. If you did end up enjoying, please make sure that you hit that like button down below. Make sure you hit that subscribe button as well. We are almost at 16,000 subscribers. I want to thank you guys so much. I love you guys. I can't wait to see you guys later in yet another banger of a video. As always, guys, stay safe. Goodbye.